Alright, welcome back to a new TouchDesigner tutorial. And in this one we're going to look at this audio analysis deck. And this is just a simple UI where we can see different parts of our audio nicely visualized in a coherent way. So we have like the title of the song and like a visualization which you can replace with anything you wish. We have a bar that's just telling us like where we are in the song. It's sort of just visualizing the fraction of the audio track. We have one sort of more or less square audio visualization here, like of the spectrum. We have one spectrum visualization here, sort of this trail thing going on here, and the left and the right channel represented as bars. And all of these parts can be, or like elements can be easily like restructured, or like their position and size can be nicely changed. It's all very dynamic and flexible because it's like based on widgets and containers. And yeah, so we're gonna work a lot with containers. As you can see here, you can just like go in further and further. So this is sort of like a typical workspace. I have workflow I have noticed when working with UIs. So yeah, let's get started. So as usual, we are going to delete everything and just start together from scratch. So I'm going to make a container, and we're going to make a lot of containers, as I said. And let's just call this audio analysis deck with E. Let's make this 1080 by 1080. Let's just give this a color by pressing C, and just put this on here, parm window operator. And yeah, let's actually just make another container in here. And we're gonna type an expression that we're gonna use a lot in this video, and this is me.parent.width. And you can just go ahead and copy this, and because we're just gonna paste it many times, and then we're always like just changing it to height on the second one, so we just have the same as our parent. So we can just call this, let's just leave it this way, whatever. We're gonna come back to this later. What we're gonna need, so I'm just gonna like show you this again so we can like see what's happening here. So we want to have like this top bar where we have our name. We have our bottom, like a center with the visual. Then we have another area down here where we have like different boxes again. So let's actually make this. I'm going to start by adding a container. And again, no, we're not going to use the expression here. Let's just call this 1 and then info. And let's change the horizontal mode to fill. So it's gonna like be filling the whole width, so 1080 in our case. Let's give this a color, so just so we can like easily see what's going on. Let's just copy and paste this 2 times. Call this 2 viz and free data. You can call this any way you wish. I watched the widget series to learn this, and then there they say the order is dependent on the way you order them here in your network, but it doesn't work for me. So what I want to do here is always call this 1, 2, 3 and then whatever name I have, so they're actually ordered the correct in the correct way. So let's go back here, because if you go back now, you can see, okay, we have this like one rectangle, and this is not what we want. So let's go to children and change the align to top to bottom. And this is still not really what we want, but yeah, it's okay. Let's go down with the background alpha so we can just see the difference between the 3 boxes. And for the first one, let's go to layout and change the vertical mode to anchors. And now we can just type in a fraction of the size that we want. So just 0.1, and now it's just going to be, the height is going to be 10% of the entire height. And for the second one, let's also change this to anchors, and then change this to like 0.6. And for the last one, we can just set it to fill, so it's just going to fill out the rest. So if we go back, we now have our whole thing filled out. Let's actually make this 0.5. And yeah, this works nicely. So we have the smaller thing up here. Our visual can go here and our data down here. Before we actually fill in, let's just set up the layout, because it's really, yeah, it needs to be done. So let's start with a, because if I just show you this again, we have this bar, as I showed you in the beginning, which just shows like where we are in the song. So let's just set a very small container here that's gonna like hold that. So let's just set this to fill on the width, and on the height, let's again change this to anchors, and let's change the size to 0.05. And let's just call this 1 length, and copy paste this, call this 2 data, and change the mode to fill. So again, we can like change this to some kind of color, so we can see what's happening, and this one as well. So maybe like a similar one, and then we can go back here, and oh, we see this isn't actually at the top. So again, we need to go to children on our parent container, so on our free data, and change the align from top to bottom. And now we can see we have our little bar up there and all the rest in here. So let's go deeper into here, because we want to have all our data nicely structured in here. So we want to have a left and a right. So there's several ways to do this. We could just put everything in here and then work with anchors. But I kind of, yeah, I don't really like working that way. So I'm just going to make a container left and right. I'm just going to call this 1 left and the second one 2 right. And on the left, I will position all of my, like these ones. I put them on the left now. We can change this later. You'll see. So that might actually be better to not call this left and right, but to like call this, I don't know, free, because we have like free things in there, and this just call this spec. I don't know. It doesn't really matter that much. It's just really just for you to have them nicely organized. So set them, set the left one to fill on horizontal mode. No, actually on anchors. We want this to be 0.6, and this one we want to fill. And the left one we also want to fill the height, and here we also want to fill the height. And it doesn't really work. We have to go to children and set left to right. Nothing changes visibly. That's okay. What we want to do is change maybe the color again, so you can just see, okay, it gets darker here, and should also get darker here. Yeah, cool. So one last layout thing is we need to do put 3 more containers here. So let's go here and change this one to like 1 volume, because that's what it's gonna be. Let's just copy and paste this. 2 spec and 3 trail. We can change the horizontal mode again to fill, and the vertical mode as well. And if we now go to here and change the children to top to bottom, then you can see they're all like nicely sized. You can again change some kind to some kind of color. They're all the same color now, so we don't really see a difference. Let's just change this, and now we can see, okay, they're nicely stacked upon each other. So now if we go in perform mode, we can see we have our bar up here, visuals here, our length bar here, and then we have our visualization containers going on here. So we have our basic layout. So what we can do now is go to look and change all the background alphas to like 0, because we don't really need the color now. We know where things are. So let's just go ahead and turn all of these off. Maybe resize them. Okay, so now we just have a black screen. Perfect. let's start with the info. And before we add anything in here, I would suggest adding an audio track. So let's add an audio file in. Yeah. One second. Okay. So yeah, audio file in. We're gonna need a device out, which I'm gonna bypass because we don't need it right now. We don't need to listen to the song the whole time. And let's add an info chop here as well. And let's start with the info. For the info, as I show you here, we just have, like, as I said in the beginning, we just have the name of our track. So this really isn't perfect. I must preface this by saying that, but it works, sort of. So we want to have a text, change the resolution to this expression. So width and height of our parent, and let's add a null. Let's call this BG, and let's go back and actually select all of these. Go to background top and just type in /BG. So now we can already see we have our text here in a right resolution. So perfect. We want this to be left, like aligned to the left, and then we can like position it a bit so it's like it's got some nice padding. So maybe 25. And we can change the font and the text. We're gonna get to that now. So what we want to have is, like, we don't really have as far as I know, we don't really have a nice simple default way to like just get the name of the song for whatever reason. I think it should be in here, but it isn't. So we need to sort of like hack our way around that. We're gonna do that with DATs. So we're gonna use a table, and we're gonna type in some Python expression here. So we're gonna type in OP, and then string first, because we want this to be in a string format, and then OP, and we're gonna talk to this audio file in that we just added. So audio file in 1, it's called, and then .par.file, because we wanna just get this expression like this. We wanna have that. So par.file, and we're gonna come back here in a second, but this works for now. Let's add an evaluate here, so we don't, like, we're actually getting the output. Then what we're going to do is use a convert and split cells at this slash. So wherever there's a slash, you can see it changes this to a new column. And now we can just select the name here. So we can just use a select. And in this case, it's select rows by index. No, actually, select columns, sorry, by index. Change this to 6. And then we sort of manually take that. So the problem here is when you have a different file path, you probably need to adjust this. So that's kind of the bad part about it, but it sort of works. So I'm gonna like type in OP, null one. You can rename this if you wish, and then just use 0 and 0. So column and row 0. And now you can see we have our name in here, but still .mp3. So we can like get rid of that by using this little trick that I found. You can type these brackets and then 0. So how many characters you take away from the start, and then how many characters you take away from the end. And we want to take away 4 characters, so the point and then the mp3 or wave. And then if we look here, we now have just the name. yeah, so just gonna show you the problem here. If I change this to a song on my PC, now it says none, and that's because we're selecting, like the path is way shorter, so we need to like change this. Yeah, as there's probably a way to just say by last or something. Just take the last. That would probably be a good way to make this more dynamic. But yeah, it sort of works this way. We can go here and maybe change this to like 20. We don't need to have such a huge title. And maybe even, oops, sorry, change this to like 30. Okay, so that's the first part. We're going to come back to the visualization. We're going to now look at the sort of core of this, so the data. So let's split our view and go into the data. And what we're going to do here is start with the length. So the length we're going to, like I showed you that here, it's just a rectangle basically showing where we are in the song. So we're going to use a rectangle top. With P, I'm gonna like show the parameters, and yeah, we as you can see here in our info chop, we have fraction, which is what we want to use, and so what we need to do is resize our rectangle again with this expression. Shape and height, it should be a very small amount, yeah, and then we can go here and change our justify horizontal to left. And now if I change the size here, you can see we can just sort of fill this in. So so we just need to add a null, call it BG. And then we can just use a select job here, drag this info job on there, and just select fraction from here, add a null, and use this value on size X. And now we have our fraction nicely represented here in this box. So we can go back here on the length and again type in ./bg. And now we have our very big rectangle representing the length of the song. We can maybe go to children and change the margin to something higher, so like maybe 10. So we have just like this thin line, which I think looks a bit nicer. But we can get back here later. So let's now go into the data, and now we have like the free and the free ones and the spec. Let's start with the free ones here. Let's just resize them, and yeah, let's start with the first one. So the volume, or like left and right. So what we want to do here is use a select. Or actually, no, let's just do it another way. Actually, let's just use a select here and just put that in here. No, not the info, the audio file in. That's what we want. So just gonna route that in there. And in here, what we're gonna do, just gonna make this very small. We're gonna need that later. So here I'm actually gonna add another select, or I can just copy and paste this. And just use the Chan 1 here and the Chan 2 here, and actually rename this to R and rename this to L. And what I want to do now is just get like a one channel value of the average. So you could of course just use analyze and set this to RMS power. This works. I also made this like in the palette. I shared that on the Patreon with explorers and the disciple tires. So you can use this audio normalized component, which works very nicely to just get out the the level of the audio file. So and it's normalized between 0 and 1. And you can just, like, you have a few options here to do stuff. So let's just actually get rid of the filter cutoff. Let's just turn that off. And just gonna copy and paste this. So if you don't have this, what you can do is just, what I'm just doing here is using an audio spectrum and then an analyze, and this is some magic to make it sort of intelligently, quote unquote, map this to 0 and 1. Okay, I'm just gonna use a null here and copy this, just put that in there as well. One thing here is you just need to like bypass and unbypass the audio spectrum, some kind of bug that it doesn't like update the name. So we have L and R channels. And now again, I'm gonna add a rectangle. It's very similar to what we just did before. Again, I want this to be the same width and height, though the height I will divide by 2. Same here, so we just copy this. We also want to have a very small height on the box, so like 0.02. And again, let's justify this on the left. Maybe, yeah. Let's just leave it that way for now. And what we can do now is add a layout and align these top to bottom, and use a custom resolution and output the resolution, and again pass this in here, and this time we're not going to divide it. So now we have the same resolution as here with as our parent container, and 2 rectangles on top of each other which have which together, like added together, have the same resolution as well. So that's nice. Let's go back here, and for all of these, again, let's type in /bg, and we should already see our rectangles. And for the sizes of the X here, let's use the corresponding channels. So L and R. And as you can see, we now have this reacting to L and R. So if I just expand this one a bit more and turn this on. This is working pretty well. Cool. For like, if you want to make this a bit cooler again, you could change the margin here to like 10 maybe, so it's they're a bit closer. You could also adjust maybe this a bit, so they're like closer together, like 0.1 minus 0.1, so they're like closer. Something like that. Just feel free to experiment as usual. And let's go to the next one here. So, the spectrum one. Here we want to use a select again. Though I'm actually going to do something here before we, whoops, sorry about that. Before we get started, let's go to this layer here. And actually add a math, because what I want to do here is use the spectrum, but I want to use the spectrum on another container as well, so I'm just going to make it here so it's a bit more clean. So I add a math. Let's combine the channels by average and use a spectrum. Change the FFT size to the highest, maybe boost this up, and that's kind of it. Maybe, I don't know, call it spec. And here, let's add a select and just use this here. We can rename it to size. You're going to see why in a second. Like even size Y. And let's, like we have a lot of channels, 24,000 channels. So let's resample this so we have less channels. We're going to use a resample. Turn off the time slice, change the method to new rate, new interval, change the unit values to absolute, and these both to samples, and the end to 100. So we just have, or like actually 99, because we want to have 100 channels. So let's just add a math and a merge, because we're going to add something else here, a pattern. I haven't actually really explained what we're doing here. We're setting up a render, like an instancing render network. So we're gonna like just position boxes next to each other by using this pattern, and then we're like using the audio to drive the size. You've probably done this before. So let's call this channel TX. And what we want to do, we have like 1,000 channels, samples. But that's because of this length here. So let's just go ahead and use this parameter here. So, and +1. And now we have 100 channels here, 100 samples here, and 100 samples here. Let's remap this from 0 to 1 to -2 and 2. And add that in here. Maybe change the order. And add a null, which we can call instances. All right. Let's now add a rectangle sub. And go ahead and change the size of this to like 0.02. And add a geo from here. And a camera. And we're also going to add a constant material, so just a white material. And on the geo, let's change the instancing to on and use these our instances null here as a default instance of P. And on the translate, we're going to select TX, and on the scale Y, we're going to select size Y. So you can already see we have our spectrum represented here, which is cool. Let's add a render top, so we're actually outputting this. And again, on this render, we want to have the same size as our parents. So just going to pass this and change this to height. And yeah, that's actually fine. And let's just add a null, call this BG, and let's have a look here. We have our spectrum down here, so that's cool. One thing is maybe I want to have like these boxes always appear as a line. So let's go to our math here and change the range to 0.01. And now we always have like some boxes, like, you know, we always have all the boxes shown, and then they're just changing sizes. So they're never disappearing. Yeah, you can, of course, like just mess around with this a bit if you wish. But yeah, this is actually working pretty well. Okay. You can also, of course, one thing I want to show you, you can also go to your rectangle here, change the center to 0.5, and then they're not like going down, they're just going up, but then twice as much, of course. So yeah, I'm just gonna leave it this way, also easier with the camera. And you can also increase the height here, so it's just a bit stronger. So let's keep it at this way. I like that. All right, and last one for these three is the trail. Again, let's use a select chop. Can't write. Select. Nope. Also can't select. There we go. Let's just use the audio file in here. And let's use a math, because we just want to have one channel. So again, we're going to combine these channels with average. And we're going to use a trail chop. So you can already see this working. I'm going to change the window length to samples and then 20,000. So feel free to like change this. You can also add a higher number again, so it's like just longer. Yeah, longer. But what we want to do is now convert this to something that we can actually render. So you could somehow do this in tops probably, but I'm gonna just do it with sobs. This is actually the very first thing I ever did in TouchDesigner, following a tutorial doing this. So just FYI. This is how it all started. So I just changed the points to -20 and 20 on the X. And what I want to do now is use a chop to sob. and use this trail. I'm just gonna add a null. Let's call this trailed, and put that on here as a chop. And before we actually progress there, we're gonna need to set the number of points here. So let's just go to our trail, copy the window length parameter, and set this to the number of points with pass reference. And on the chop too, you can see an error. It doesn't find these channels. We need to change this to chan 1. And we just need P1. So now you should be able to see this. And you can also add a transform to make this a bit more visible by just changing the scale Y. And maybe right click here, turn off adaptive homing. So you can like nicely see this now. Okay, let's add a geo from here. Again, a camera. Let's change the Z to 50. And again, let's add a constant material to just make this white. And let's add a render top. And it's the same process again, as usual. Add null, call it BG. And if we look here, we should now see our trail. So we now have all these 3 different ones, 4 different ones actually. So cool. Last one here is another spectrum. So let's just go here. And what we're going to do here is just select the audio spectrum here. So we've already prepared this. We can just take this, use a null. This is actually what I'm doing in my spectrum to tops video. You can just use a chop to top, use a res, like a resolution, change this to custom resolution, output aspect resolution. And again, our beloved little formula. So width and height of our parent, and let's add a level here and a null, call it BG. We need to go back here and actually type in ./BG. And if we now maybe just increase all of these a bit so we have a bit more like to see there, we can now see we have that down here. One thing we might want to do is actually maybe change these again so we can see this better. And same here. Okay, this doesn't actually, whatever. We might want to go here and change the children margin to 5, just so we have a bit of a border there, and then a spacing of 5 as well, so we have like a divider there. And here for these 3 we might want to go to children as well and change the spacing to 5, and now they're all like nicely spaced out. And let's just turn this off again. Okay, we can also go ahead and add a border. So let's just use border A. It's already quite nice. Don't really need to change anything there. Same here. Let's just add a border to all these 4 sides, and same here. It's a bit annoying that you have to set each border individually, but yeah, just be like that. That's also, no, actually, I do not want a border here. Maybe let's just add a border here. It's on the parent. There we go. Sort of. I don't know. We can also add one here. Whatever you wish. This is sort of like a waste of time. Okay. anyways, let's just progress to the last step here, or to the last visual representation of the song. So what we're doing in here, we're actually using some soft magic. I'm just going to use a select again. You could also use an in chop. I'm just going to use this. We're just going to use the original audio file in. Now we can close this one. And again, I'm going to use the audio normalized. And again, you could use just an analyze. Just making things a bit easier. Maybe you turn up the smooth. Add a math. And a speed. And a null. Oops. And yeah, I'm gonna add a grid sub. Change it to ZX. Maybe go down a bit with the rows and columns. So we just have like this flat little grid. You can look at the wireframe of W. And I'm just gonna add a noise. Turn off adaptive homing. And yeah, we have this nice little sort of, how's it called? I don't know. Whatever. Let's go down the period a bit, and let's just add a geo from here. A geo, again a cam, and a line material I want to use for this. And a render top, of course. And for the last time, we're gonna add our little magic formula. And add a null, call it BG, and then we should see our little thing here. And now let's actually make this audio reactive. So right now it's just moving on this formula. So let's just use this instead. So now if I turn on the sound, then you can see it's reacting to that. Actually kind of turn off the audio filter here. So for the math, you can just go to mult add and maybe multiply this by 2, so the effect is a bit stronger. And yeah, so we're a bit more in control there. For the cam, I'm actually gonna go to noise, maybe go down with the amplitude a bit to like 0.7. And for the cam, let's just position this a bit more nicely. Let's show this here. Yeah, this should work pretty nicely. Let's have a look here. It's a bit too close. Something like this, right? Let's go into a line and go to line and change this to white. I'll make that better. Maybe just to almost white. And then now we can just change the distances a bit. The width and the height. Add the width, just the width. Okay, so something like that looks pretty cool. And now if you wish to do this, you can also add some feedback to get the same effect that I showed you in the beginning. So feedback top, level top, transform, and add. And let's add it to this one. Put that onto the feedback. And let's change the level to like 0.8. And the transform to like 1.05. Something like this, maybe even some more level. So let's have a look here. It doesn't look too bad. You might want to change the order here. I think that's actually gonna... Oh, it doesn't make much of a difference. Anyways, if you wish to do this, just use this. Okay, let's also add a border here, just so everything is looking the same. I could have just selected both. Okay, that looks cool. Like a border around everything. We might want to go here to our length and change this back to 5 here. No? Okay. Maybe to like 7. Looks like it it should align with this somehow. Okay. So actually, I do want to have borders on these. Oh man. Okay, it just looks a bit sleeker. And yeah, so of course you can. So we're done with the basic setup after 40 minutes. So yeah, we can now just like go ahead and I already see something I don't like here. I'm so sorry about this, but let's turn off the borders here actually. Okay, there we go. So yeah, you can change the colors, for example, like individually, as I said, but I want to show you something else, and that is using the OP viewer. So now we're just passing this on as it is. We can also use an OP viewer here and drag that on there. So we're like sort of converting from comms to tops, sort of. And what we can do here is change the resolution to the same as here, or you know, we could just again use the expression of our parent. And so now we can just use a null bg, and now if we go ahead and wait, let me check here. Let's type in this. Yeah, so you can already see this is something changed. And let's go ahead and just add a lookup here. So we're able to like change all the colors at once if you want to have like a color theme sort of going on. And just a quick way to do this, just change the white here to any color that you like. I had a red in the beginning, it's orangey red. So the problem here is that we're gonna like, yeah, gonna actually see this. So they're sort of like added together. Wait a second. Fuck. So okay, I was trying out something new, but actually this doesn't work better. So let's just take that away and put this in here. Of course it doesn't work now anymore. Right. Let's just change this to 1080 by 1080 here. Oopsie. Sorry about that. And let's just use this resolution here. So we're just gonna copy this, pass the reference in here, and just change this to H. And now we're just going to use this as a window operator. That actually works better. So now we're like we're getting this output with the new color. And let's just call this audio, and this is deck now. Just say yes. Ah, of course. So sorry about this. Let's just pass that in here. Okay, and let's add a noise. So we can just add a bit of grain. I always like that, especially on UIs as well. So let's change to random, just go down with all these parameters. So we just have a bit of grain going on. Okay, so I think we're done here. One last thing I want to just show you, sort of why we had all this hassle with the with all the containers and stuff, because you know it's kind of annoying when you like have to go in and out of these. But the cool thing is we can like just change this from right to left, for example, and now we have like them. Now they're aligned differently, like positioned differently. Right, actually, just to show you, because I'm cutting off the lower part, let me change the width and height here to like 900 by 900 so you can see this better. Yeah, so you can change stuff here. You can like go here and change the this to bottom to top, and now they're like aligned differently. Stuff like that, you know. so just feel free to play around with that, and also you can like rename them here to like give them different orders. And yeah, that's really the power of this. And you can like nicely position stuff inside of them, and it's always like, you know, if we change one size here, so you know we have set this to fill, so we can just like change the right anchor here, and then you can see everything is automatically changed. So I just wanted to show you the power of that at the end. Okay, so we're done now, and if you have any questions, of course, like feel free to ask. And yeah, so this is sort of the basic way to build UIs and to use audio analysis in there. And yeah, thanks a lot for if you're Patreon and supporting me. And if you want to have the files for this and see some more content, then become a patron. And yeah, thanks a lot for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one.